welcome back to Beyond the Road. Today we're looking at DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. They are back on the scene. But what are they? Ethereum's blockchain is known for housing DAOs, so I will use Ethereum's definition. Ethereum says we should think of a DAO as an internet-native business that is collectively owned and managed by its members. A key feature is the built-in treasury, which cannot be accessed without the approval of the members. So far, you might be thinking, well, we can set up a regular business and require that the funds not be spent without the approval of all and require everybody's input in daily management. But how feasible is it to get everybody's input for every action to be taken? The input from all the members for decision making is what makes the DAO decentralized. Unlike in current corporate structures where day-to-day management requires a single person who can make a final decision. So far, we see the idea behind the DAO solving two problems. One, the fear of theft or misappropriation of funds, and two, transparency in decision making. So how do you join a DAO or become a member for DAO? This is based on the structure of the DAO. There are different formats. In the same way, becoming part of X Club may require something different from becoming a part of Y Club. Some DAOs may require that you buy their native token or coin or some other existing token or coin. For some, this is how the DAO is initially funded. Other DAOs obtain members based on proposals or requests to join with an offer of contribution to the DAO's treasury. So how does a DAO work? There's no one set way. It depends on the DAO's specific code and its smart contract, which is influenced by the purpose of the DAO. Early DAOs were intended to fund proposed projects, and in the spirit of decentralization, it was the members who voted on project proposals to determine which project would be funded through the DAO's treasury. Earlier, we mentioned tokens or coins being the way to gain membership. Depending on the DAO, the tokens or coins are used for voting on governance matters, such as which projects to fund. Other tokens or coins may be used to declare the extent of a person's stake or claim in the DAO's treasury. The Maker DAO, for example, has a token and a coin. The Maker token is used for governance of the DAO. What you are seeing on screen is from the Maker DAO's website, where they expressly state that the Maker token is for governance, which includes voting on issues surrounding DAI. On the screen is part of the Maker DAO's website, which gives you access to the various proposals. The proposal being shown is requiring votes on whether to invest in a short-term bond. DAI is the Maker DAO's stablecoin, which can be used for payments on certain apps. Now, turning our attention to the types of DAOs, we mentioned before that early DAOs were used for investment. Many DAOs still do that. There are different kinds of investment DAOs. Some are used for funding projects which are intended to further develop the Web3 blockchain industry. How does this investment work? Based on the agreed plan, the DAO may either sell the project or collect a profit, which may be distributed as a dividend to the members or perhaps place earning in the treasury. Just as there are for-profit investment DAOs, there are also non-profit DAOs such as the Big Green DAO, which teaches people how to grow food and support their families and communities in growing their own food through training, grants, garden bed donations. Now let's look at DAOs and liability. Whether the DAO is for profit or non-profit, what happens if something goes wrong? In the Web3 blockchain world, the lack of centralization and regulation has been the basis for caution. Nevertheless, humans tend to want someone to blame for their misfortune. In a pure Web3 blockchain environment, everything that is permitted is written into the code, and whatever happens, the code is law and must be accepted. Well, humans needing someone to blame consider whether the author of the code should be blamed. Should they? That is certainly a discussion for another time. Persons who feel they must have someone to blame may be comforted by the structure operation style of some modern DAOs. On the other hand, the members of these DAOs should be vigilant. Earlier I mentioned that how a DAO works is based on its specific code and its smart contract, and that some DAOs require the use of their tokens or coins for voting on governance issues. For some DAOs, governance is embedded in the smart contract, which would usually mean the voting is recorded on the blockchain. As DAOs have developed, this strict decentralization and having everything recorded on the blockchain has proven not to be feasible to facilitate many of the modern uses of DAOs, which seek to replace existing corporate structures. Existing corporate structures such as the limited liability company are designed to offer protection against personal liability. Another consideration that the developers or creators of DAOs have to consider is whether the sale of the tokens or the general nature of their for-profit investment DAO will trigger securities laws. There are a few pieces of legislation which have been relied on to provide some protection. Let's start with the United States. In the state of Vermont, the Limited Liability Company Act has formulated a corporate structure called the blockchain-based limited liability company, which can be governed in whole or in part through blockchain technology. That option for governance no doubt is ideal for DAO creators or developers. Then there is the state of Wyoming, which passed the Wyoming Decentralized Autonomous Organization Supplement, which allows for the creation of DAOs as limited liability autonomous organizations. While in general the creation of specific legislation is welcomed, Wyoming has reportedly not been overwhelmed by applications for registration. Why? There is a view that the legislation has allegedly been drafted in a manner which suggests a misunderstanding of how the technology works. If you're in the United States and Wyoming doesn't cut it and Vermont doesn't work for you, what else can you do? Well, there's the ever-trusted Delaware Limited Liability Company, which has been used by several DAOs. This is where we must highlight Aaron Wright, attorney at law and co-founder of Tribute Labs, which helps DAOs to incorporate legal contracts into their blockchain. Tribute Labs DAOs are incorporated as Delaware Limited Liability Companies, but that's not all the goodness to Tribute DAOs. Tribute DAOs do not use tokens to confirm an investor's stake. They rely on the member unit structure of the Delaware Limited Liability Company. My guess is the removal of the tokens removes some scrutiny, but already declaring itself as an investment DAO, in my mind, would still require compliance with securities laws. Another proactive and wise movement by Tribute DAOs is ensuring that the investors involved meet the accredited investor standard. Delaware Limited Liability Companies are required to have an operating agreement. In an interview with the Board Governance podcast, Aaron Wright explained that the operating agreement is modified to waive all fiduciary duty and conflict of interest liability. In addition, all core voting is written into the smart contract. The removal of fiduciary duty might sound concerning to someone interested in joining a DAO. However, based on commentary from another United States qualified attorney at law, this is acceptable since there is still a requirement to act in good faith. Another protective step to reduce disputes regarding investors has been the use of the Rage Quit feature, which allows investors who are dissatisfied with the project chosen to pull their investment. This feature ties in with the fact that approval for projects is accounted for based on the investors who actually vote on a project instead of all investors who currently have funds in the treasury. Now, there are two other DAOs I'd like to highlight, one of which is the MetaCartel Ventures or the Venture DAO. The Venture DAO is similar to the Tribute DAO, but seems to describe the operating agreement as a pact, which is entered into by the Delaware Limited Liability Company, referred to as the org, and also known as the MetaCartel Ventures DAO, and the members of the org, the LLC. On your screen in yellow, you will see the pact also states its purpose is to organize and establish the governance and operations of the org, also known as the DAO, and the rights and obligations of its members. I want to highlight some other important clauses in the pact which address securities law. You will see in blue at 1.7 where it is expressly stated that the members intend to treat the org as a partnership for the purpose of securities law. And in orange, that the org is not intended to be or become an entity required to be registered under the Investment Company Act of 1940, but rather be a private investment company. You might recall in an earlier video where I mentioned BlockFi being required to get its affairs in accordance with that same Investment Act. In green is an important limitation on the org/DAO to ensure avoidance of certain obligations. That limitation being securities holders not exceeding 100 persons. Then there's the requirement not to make public offerings. As a reminder, I'm not an attorney qualified to practice in the United States, but reviewing this fact and how tribute DAOs operate certainly cements the value of having a Web3 blockchain-minded lawyer in your contacts. Now, the other DAO I would like to highlight is the ApeCoin DAO. If you use social media, it is very likely that you have seen non-fungible token images of apes, which are from the Bored Ape Yacht Club and other collections. The ApeCoin DAO is designed to work in that ecosystem with the ApeCoin. If you've been interacting with my content, you might have realized that I am big on utility, the Web3 blockchain space. The ApeCoin website identifies several uses of the ApeCoin. Governance, which allows ApeCoin holders to vote. Unification of spend, which allows shared currency in the ecosystem. And then there is access to certain features of the ecosystem, example events, services, and incentivization to third parties to incorporate the ApeCoin in their business. Now, who can own or hold ApeCoins? If you're thinking only the owners of the heftily priced NFTs can own the ApeCoin, that's not correct. The holders of the Ape NFTs are entitled to claim a set amount of ApeCoins. The other holders include Yuga Labs, which is the company behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT collection, the founders of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and everyday persons who would like to buy the ApeCoin. There are also the companies and people that contributed to the creation of the ApeCoin and DAO. Now, the Ape NFTs are tied to Yuga Labs, and the fact of ApeCoins being airdropped to the NFT owners gives the appearance of a profit, which could raise the question of the NFTs being a security. But with Yuga Labs distancing itself from the ApeCoin, coming to that conclusion is not reliable at this time. In outlining the persons who would receive the ApeCoin initially, no specific person or entity was identified. ApeCoin's website simply acknowledges the companies and the people that helped to make this project a reality. Now, remaining on securities law considerations, the way the ApeCoin DAO operates is important. We highlighted the use of the Delaware Limited Liability Company and other corporate structures. The ApeCoin DAO has used a different corporate structure, a foundation. The foundation has a board which exists solely to oversee the decisions of the ApeCoin DAO, as well as third-party project teams in charge of ensuring ApeCoin DAO decisions are implemented. The board is made up of actual human beings who will remain in office for 6 months, after which the ApeCoin holders will vote for a new board member annually and can, by a majority vote, remove and replace board members. I have not seen any of the corporate documents as I did for the MetaCartel DAO, which means I do not have as much insight into any specific limit of liability or requirements placed on ApeCoin holders or the human members of the board. Generally speaking, we know foundations offer limited liability and are suitable for functioning as a holding vehicle for the protection of assets. Several countries in the Caribbean offer a good environment to form a foundation, such as the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, and the Bahamas. As mentioned earlier, modern DAOs tend not to be entirely decentralized, which moves legal considerations from securities to also liability in general for actions taken or not taken. Also, with the uses of modern DAOs, everyday actions such as sourcing physical items and securing physical locations by signing requires direct human input. Having stayed to the end, I hope that you've taken away some key pointers to bear in mind if you're creating or joining a DAO. Until next time, be wise and stay safe.